This one for a blessed Gambia. The more we work together, the more we celebrate. The more we come together, the more we celebrate. Come on, let's get together. There's a place I love to be. The Gambia, the Gambia.
A date for your diary. Gambian Fashion and Exhibition Weekend. Designers are welcome to register interest. It's all about raising awareness of the fantastic work being done in our community.
Award night, fashion night and exhibition of top class only. This event is sponsored by Gam Designers UK.
Energy and Elite Events présente Wally Balago Sek in London. Hey, London that do watch it. Hey, who not watch London? You know le golden boy, le playboy de la musique sénégalaise, le golden boy of Senegalese music. Wally Balago Sek in London, April 6, Lighthouse in London. Attention, pay attention a lot to what I'm saying. This is Wally Balago Sek in London, April 6, Lighthouse in London. Could you compare it? Negri Koita, Chéri Adja, Ibrahima Diawo, Boubassila Nimisera, Chéri Ida, Ibrahima Koma, Chéri Nabia Drame, Kamondoy, Chéri Nasicham, Guy Marenbi, Nune Ida Sose, Chéri Aladji Mboup, Faith Cole, Anta G, Chéri Prince, Sali Touré, Chéri Jamil Traoré, Aji Drame Ndiaye, Aji Chéri Ay Traoré, Zeynab, Chéri Bess Traoré, Kankou Sisse Khobanna, Fatou Sisse, Chéri Serigne, Ndey Cham, Chéri Tafasila, Wuri Diallo. Hey ladies and gentlemen, Wally Balago Sek will be our guest in London April 6. Dugubanak Naranek ak Wally Balago Sek, standing 48, sitting 55, another sitting place 16, VIP table, per person 100. And Wally Balago Sek will be our guest. I know, and I'm sure that you're waiting for.
Yes, I am people. I'm coming to London on the 6th of April. Rich Energy, Elite Events, ak Wally Balago Sek, and London Band on the 6th of April. London Manager, Fumayo Lighthouse.
London.
Hello, welcome to Interface Gambia. I'm your presenter Lamin Jame with my brand new show called The Jollof Show. This is my first episode, and the first episode on Jollof Show, I'll be talking about immigration. Yes, immigration. I know when I talk about immigration, people will be wondering what exactly we'll be talking about today. We'll be talking about Brexit, how Brexit will affect we, the Senegambia people living in the UK. Mainly people with other European nationalities, French, German, Portuguese, you name them. To do this episode with me today, I've invited a very special brother, a friend, a human rights activist, a lawyer, and in immigration he specializes. He is one of the leading, best Gambian immigration lawyers. Is nobody else apart from my own friend and brother, Mr. Yankuba Dabo. Yanks, how are you today?
I'm okay. Thank you very much for having me today.
It is a pleasure to have you on the show, being my first guest on Interface Gambia on the Jollof Show. It is a pleasure to have you.
Indeed, I'm honored to be the first guest on the show, indeed.
Thank you very much for coming. Mr. Dabo, I would like to talk to you today in regards to Brexit. Brexit has been on the media headlines for the past couple of months. and days.
Yes.
And now we're coming to a point whereby either the UK government will agree or disagree with the European Union. Now, my question to you today is, how is this going to affect the Gambians, all the Senegambia, or all the nationalities living in the UK when this Brexit take place?
Indeed, thank you very much. Yes, Brexit, there are a lot of myth and speculations about what Brexit is going to be, or what the final agreement is going to be with the EU. The British Prime Minister, as you know, has a famous soundbite where he said, a no deal is better than a bad deal.
That's right.
So, and then yesterday she had a bit of a press. I think she did a speech to the press about the treatment that she received with her from the last meeting that she had with the European leaders. I don't think she was very happy with the reception she had there. So she is now saying, well, with regards to the border issue in Northern Ireland and Ireland, and other issues that they still are unable to resolve. So it seems very much likely that we are heading for a no-deal scenario. So in a no-deal scenario, you're looking at the whole European, especially those who are here on the basis of the European regulations, because the European regulations are, and this is one of the things that people need to understand about immigration. Immigration has a lot of laws.
That's right.
And the laws apply differently to different categories of people. So for those who are European nationals
okay,
and their family dependents, they come under what we call the European regulations. So that will be the European regulation, what we call the Immigration EE regulations 2000, and it used to be 2006, now is 2016. So that one, the promise that the government had made is that they will transpose that law into the UK law. So it means that the rights that that law had given or is given to the European citizens and family members will continue to be extant under UK law. So people will be able to exercise those laws, and if they believe that there is an infringement of their rights, they can be able to take it to the UK laws as they are currently doing. Now the problem is that if we go out of Brexit without a deal, we would be hoping that the ministers will not renege on the promises that they've made, that they will guarantee the settlement of European citizens and their family members. Their rights will be respected. But we have been receiving letters of recent residence cards that have been granted to family members, non-EA family members, and the letters that accompany the residence card will say your rights to remain in the UK will be decided on whatever the agreement that Britain is able to secure with the EU. So the difficulty is that if we don't have a deal, if there is no deal between the UK, a good deal between the UK and the EU, the rights of the citizens basically become something that depends on the prerogative or the discretion of the UK government. And the UK government can decide, well, we want to either they can say, well, those who are EU citizens will need to meet certain financial requirements as they are applying to their own citizens.
Okay.
Or they could say, well, you have to have this or you have to have that. But I don't think the status quo as at present will be something that they will probably maintain, especially with regards to, because the EU family dependents, they benefit from this much lesser application fee for their applications. If they go out of Brexit, one would think that they will then say, well, there is no subsidy coming from Europe with regards to application fees, therefore why would it's not fair for us to charge dependents of UK citizens this huge amount of money and then the EU citizens not be paying that much money. That could be an issue. In terms of whether they're going to deport them, I would say no. They will not deport anybody. They've already made a promise.
Okay.
They will give them settlement. They will give EU citizens and their family members some form of settlement in the EU.
So what is going to be those settlements? What name, under the UK immigration law, what name are they going to give those?
I think it would be, we would say it would still be resident card. It will still be resident card. Maybe
so when you say resident card, is it going to be a permanent resident card or an indefinite right to stay in the UK?
I think those that have been here for 5 years would be given permanent residence card, as it is the current
EU members?
Yeah.
Exercising EU laws?
EU laws, yeah.
All right.
And then those family members of EU members who have also lived in the UK for 5 years, I believe they too will benefit from that permanent residence sort of discretion. The problem is, it's about those that have not been here for 5 years and those that have not even registered so far. So I think those people, they might, depending on how long they've been in the UK, if they've been here less than 5 years, I think they will want those people to be registered as resident card. Though the minister seems to be given the impression that they're all going to be given settlement.
Okay.
Settlement. But I don't think they will give everyone settlement. I think from experience of how these people dealing with the UK,
the European
Union, and the whole UK immigration system itself, I would say that I don't think they will be that generous.
Right, so the reason I want to just ask you another question is, so would you say or would you advise people with European nationals to start applying for residency in the UK before this article triggers?
It would be the most prudent thing to do at the moment.
Okay.
Is to try and apply for residence card, because one of the things that will, the criteria of whatever the new system going to be or the new scheme going to be for EU citizens after Brexit is not known yet because they have not announced it.
Okay.
So it could come in all sort of forms. They can bring in a requirement, or the eligibility requirements could apply. They could say, well, you have to be in the UK, maybe, because there were suggestions that the EU migrants who sort of migrated to UK after the Brexit, maybe those people should not be considered for residence. Some people were suggesting that. Others were saying it should only apply after when Britain leaves the
European Union.
Formally, leaves, which will be March 2019. So we don't know what the eligibility criteria will be. It could be that they might come up and say, well, those that have arrived between this period. So if you've been here well before let's say the cutoff point, if you've been here before that, but you've not been engaged in employment or any sort of...
Meaning you're exercising your European right to reside in the UK.
Yeah, so it would be very difficult for you to prove that you've been in the UK. But if you register now, whatever the criteria is, the likely chances are that you're already in the system. They cannot then say, we dispute the fact that you've been in the UK prior to this certain period.
Right, so when exactly is the UK looking into coming out of the European Union?
If we get a deal, the official deadline is March 31st, I believe, March 31st, 2019. But they did say that there was, because they don't want, there's this talk of a cliff edge,
right,
sort of like exit, when everything just comes to an end. So they talk of a transition which takes us to I believe it's 2020 or 2021, which gives us another 2 years after 2019. But it all depends on whether we are able to secure a good deal or a bad deal, or a no deal. Because if we have a no deal, then I don't even know whether that transition will be maintained or respected by either party. And if that happens, as you could see, the government has already started giving advice to British citizens in the event of a no deal scenario. What will happen to when you are traveling to Europe, that some passports might
change, even driving license might not be accepted in all the European countries.
Exactly, yes.
Right.
So European citizens, I mean, they are advising UK citizens. Unfortunately for the European citizens, they have not had that sort of advice
from their own nation,
from the European bloc, because Europe is hoping that they will be able to get a good deal with the UK. And the UK government is not giving advice to the European citizens who are here as to what their rights will be after Brexit, in the event of no deal Brexit. So the problem, the limbo that the European citizens are in now, and quite frankly they have to be worried, is what happens to them in the event of no deal, because no deal means we have no deal. It just simply means there is no deal, and then whatever rights you have are not literally guaranteed. They are the discretion of the UK.
So if there is no deal, that clearly stated or clearly means that European nationals, they will not be guaranteed or be backed by the European law anymore.
Exactly.
Living in the UK.
What happens is that the UK, the European citizens' rights now are governed by the EEA regulation laws.
Which is the Lisbon Treaty.
Yes. So that treaty, the European Convention, the directive, we call it EEA Directive 38, which had been transposed into the UK law by the EEA Regulations 2016. So the question is about an obligation. The reason why the UK is currently observing or respecting that law is because we are a member of the European Union.
That's right.
If we come out of the European Union, the question then becomes is, are we under any obligation?
So they don't necessarily have to respect the laws anymore.
So until it has the blessing of the House of Parliament, it would not be the law of our land.
Right. Still on the immigration, at what point do you think that the UK government will start putting in place of the point system similar to what is happening in Australia?
We already have point system with regards to non-EEA citizens. We already have point systems. So people coming in as students have to meet certain points criteria, as well as people coming in for work and highly skilled migrants. They all have to meet certain point criteria. So the point system in those categories or immigration categories, the way they work is that you, for example, a student, you get a 10 point for meeting the English language criteria.
Okay.
And then you get a 20 point for finance criteria. So there's a maintenance requirement which will say you need to have 800 if you're going to be living in London, Greater London area, and then 600 if you're going to be living outside of
London.
So, and then the other thing is you need to get a school, a sponsorship certificate from a school. That also gives you certain points.
Right.
And then the institution that you get the certificate from will also give you points. So the same thing with employment as well. So that point system, what they're talking about is sort of like implementing that sort of, or adopting such policy for EU citizens as well. But non-EU citizens, they are going through that point system, except cases where we have human rights and Article 8, and that is the cases of family members or applicants or dependents who are trying to join family members.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dabo. We'll just take a short break with viewers of Interface Gambia. I'm your presenter, like I said, Mr. Jami Lamin, with our brand new show here called The Jollof Show. We'll take a short break and we'll be shortly back with you again.
Yo, this one for a blessed Gambia. The more we work together, the more we celebrate. The more we come together, the more we celebrate. So come on, let's get together. There's a place I love to be. The Gambia, the Gambia.
A date for your diary, Gambian Fashion and Exhibition Weekend. Designers are welcome to register interest. It's all about raising awareness of the fantastic work being done in our community.
Award night, fashion night and exhibition nights of top class only.
Allô bébé, ça va? Ça va, je vais bien, merci. Et toi?
Ça va bien.
Et moi, j'ai toujours pas encore reçu l'argent pour la dépense des enfants. J'attends toujours.
Ah oui, c'est vrai. Wow. Actuellement, je suis au travail. Je suis tellement pris, mais bon, je sais pas, je pourrais pas me déplacer. Voilà, je pourrais pas me déplacer. Est-ce que je peux le faire plus tard?
Ok. Mais il y a une autre possibilité. Tu peux télécharger l'application de Cash Money online.
Cash Money? Non, jamais. C'est quoi Cash Minute?
C'est une application mobile, tu télécharges ça dans Play Store. Oui. Ça te prend même pas 5 minutes. Je suis là, je t'attends. Fais-moi signe une fois que c'est prêt. D'accord.
Attends, je vais vérifier. Je vais le télécharger tout à l'heure. Tout à l'heure. Ok.
Votre transfert d'argent, code CM, montant. Ah, que c'est rapide. Tu vas devoir filer à la poste. Mais avant ça, allez, oui. Bébé, tu as été génial. Je viens de recevoir le code. Dans même pas 10 minutes, j'ai reçu. Et c'est tellement rapide, je t'assure. Je vais comme ça à la poste récupérer l'argent. Ok, merci beaucoup. Ok, au revoir.
Vous vivez en Europe et désirez envoyer de l'argent à vos proches en Afrique. Alors pensez à Cash Minute.
Welcome back to Interface Gambia with your presenter Lamin Jami with my brand new show called The Jollof Show. Today I've got a very special guest, which is Mr. Dabo here, Yankuba Dabo, a very well-known solicitor, immigration he specializes in. Today Mr. Dabo will be talking to us with the EU laws and Brexit. We've talked about Brexit earlier on. We still got some few more points to put through to Mr. Dabo, and I'm sure the viewers will really benefit from this show today. Mr. Dabo, welcome back again to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Mr. Dabo, I want to talk about students.
Yeah.
What are the rights of students, foreign students, mainly coming from non-EU countries, giving them access to work within the system after finishing their education in the UK? Because the reason I'm asking you this question, Mr. Dabo, going to other European countries, for example, France, students required to work, or they are given the chance to work after finishing their education, with the hoping to give them resident cards to stay in the country. So what is the UK law when it comes to students now? Forget about the point system. You talked about the point system, which is very important. But is the UK at any given time or any given point looking into students, foreign students coming from non-European countries, to be given access to work into the system after finishing their education?
And they used to have policies or categories for such in the UK, but they've now basically stopped many of them. And I think now they're talking about students who try thinking of going into entrepreneurial, that is the Tier 1 entrepreneurial visa or categories, migrant scheme. But that one comes with its own, the challenge there is that of the financial requirement.
Right.
They should have some financial requirement to prove that they're going to either invest, or I think the amount for students is 50,000, which is very difficult for a lot of people to prove.
So they're coming from third world countries, it's going to be really difficult.
Very difficult. The only thing is that it also allows sort of like a group sort of investment. So a group of students who probably haven't got the 50,000 at their own disposal individually can bring their funds together and make that threshold, and then apply as a book to say that they want to invest or initiate a business or join a business as entrepreneurs. So that is the only, at the moment, that is the not the only, but the main one there. The other thing is, if you're a student and you're able to secure work, and maybe these work related sort of studies or courses that others do, like engineering, medicine, and where there are what they call soft skills employment.
So does that mean that your employee have to sponsor you before you're allowed to work in the system?
Employers have to, and the problem with that is that the employers also have to be registered with the Home Office, so they have to have a sponsorship license in order for them to be able to sponsor someone. And that is where the big problem is, because most employers want to retain some of these students who work for them during their schooling days, but the problem is that they have not, many of them haven't taken the steps to register themselves, and they did not think that there was a need for it. And then there is this £1,000 that they have to pay annually if they want to remain as a sponsor.
So is that the employer paying that £1,000?
The employer has to pay that
to the government.
Yeah, in order to sponsor someone. So to maintain their license, they have to pay that £1,000. It's sort of like a annual fee. And a lot of employers find that a bit of onerous and cumbersome for them, and then it puts many of them off. And then it's also, you know, when you're sponsoring someone, because immigration there are a lot of dubious deals going on in immigration. So
when you say dubious deal, is that within the immigration system or within?
Not within the system, but within the employment system itself.
Right, okay.
So, you know, you've got people who want to stay at all costs, and therefore you've got employers who are actually not observing the strict rules that the Home Office have laid for to be met by any employer, and they want to do favors for people and get them the the sponsorship license and sponsor them, but they're not actually working for them, they're working for someone else and paying them. So to clamp down on those things meant that the immigration require a lot from the employer. When you are, say for example, you're a sponsor of a Tier 1 or Tier 2 migrant, they would want you to show that the person had been paid, or the work that they've been doing on all these things. And to meet those things is a challenge for a lot of employers, because their HR departments are already inundated with so much work dealing with employee complaints, and to add much more to that is that of immigration. And immigration is a very complex area. For even immigration advice, there's much more HR staffs. The reason why it's very complex is because it never stops changing. The government keeps changing immigration. Immigration is one area where it just keeps changing.
Right.
You know, and the reason why it has to change the close.
So I agree that loopholes in the system within the immigration system.
There will always be loopholes.
Right.
Managing human beings will always be a challenge for any system.
No, because the reason I'm saying that, I think it's not fair on students, especially foreign students coming from non-EU countries. Because I mean, coming into this country paying quite a lot of number of thousands of pounds, and then leaving the same country with your degree or with all your qualifications without any work experience is quite difficult when you go back to your country. Despite the fact that most countries will appreciate it when someone comes from the UK with certificates, but at least that job experience that will allow them is very important.
Very, very important indeed. Indeed. They used to have a postgraduate scheme, which used to be in extent for students, but they just all of a sudden, because the way our system had been working, it been, as we all heard from the media, there was a hostile environment for immigration, and that obviously had affected students, and that's why many of those postgraduate schemes and everything else were taken off from the immigration rules. The universities, I believe, universities and other institutions, they're not benefiting from it as well, because many international students are now trying to go to other countries. Absolutely. Where after their studies they get the opportunity to be able to work and get experience. And the UK universities have to compete with those countries. And this is something which the universities have been trying to make to the government, but the politicians have not been listening. And the reason why they have not been listening is because xenophobia had been a big issue in this country and continues to be, and that's probably one of the reasons why Brexit happened.
That's true.
So the politicians feel like they are under some pressure to control migration, and as a result of that, they're not listening to the university professors and the university deans and chancellors with the complaints they are making, that their student numbers, the numbers of students they are attracting internationally is going down. And the reason why it's going down is because other countries are offering more to international students than the UK is offering, and it's because of the hostile immigration environment that we have. The new minister said they're going to change that. We hope it will reflect in the way they're in towards the student, because students are very important revenue generating for universities in order to enable universities to fund research and many other things. So that is something which people need to understand. But people in this country don't understand the benefits of immigration. All that you hear in the public, in the media, is about the negative aspect of immigration.
Immigration has always been like that. As you know, it's been in here or any other European country.
That's true.
But when it's still talking about immigration with the UK, how long has the person has to be in this country illegally before he can obtain or apply for a residency legally?
Legally?
Yeah. Illegally, before they can apply for a residency to be a legal person in this country.
Okay, so until July 2012 or 2013, July 2013, if you've been in this country, what we call unlawfully, or either unlawfully or as an overstayer, if you reach the if you reach 14 years continuous residence in the UK, have not left the country for more than 6 months and back, within the 14 years, if you reach the 14 years, you can apply for, then it used to be indefinite leave to remain.
Okay.
You know, what the hostile immigration environment did is they took that provision from the immigration rules and then replaced it with what they now call private life, which now means that it has certain criteria. Basically, if you've been in this country unlawfully or without irregularized, it will say you can apply for leave to remain as a person who has established private life under the immigration rules.
Under the EU immigration laws or the British immigration law?
British immigration law.
Okay.
British immigration law. So you can apply and then you will get, but the years for that one is 20 years. So you have to literally be here. If you're an adult.
So from 2013 up to date today, that has been changed to
it has been changed to 20 years.
To 20 years.
20 years is now the benchmark. But that applies to mainly over 25s. If you're under 25, you need to prove that you've been here, you've spent half of your
entire life.
Yeah. So if you entered, say, you're under 25, you're, say, 24 years old.
Energy and Elite Events présente Wally Balagosek in London. Hey, London Dada du watch it. Hey, who not watch in London? You know le golden boy, le playboy de la musique sénégalaise, le golden boy of Senegalese music. Wally Balagosek in London, April 6, Lighthouse in London. Attention, madame, April Lighthouse in London. Could you compare le Gris Koita, Chéri Adja, Ibrahima Diawo, Boubassila Nimisera, Chéri Ida, Ibrahima Koma, Chéri Nabia Drame, Kamondoy, Chéri Nasicham, Guy Marendi, Nune Ida Sose, Chéri Aladjimbouba, Faith Cole, Ante G, Chéri Prince, Sali Touré, Chéri Jamil Traoré, Aji Dramenjai, Aji, Chéri Aït Traoré, Zainab, Chéri Bess Traoré, Kankou, Sisse Khobanna, Fatou Sisse, Chéri Serigne, Ndey Cham, Chéri Tafasila, Wuri Diallo. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, Wally Balagosek will be our guest in London, April 6. Dugubanak Naranech ak Wally Balagosek, standing 48, sitting 55, another sitting place 16, VIP table, peer person 100. London, Wally Balagosek will be our guest. I know, and I'm sure that you're waiting for.
Yes, I am on people. I'm coming to London on the 6th of April. Rich Energy, Elite Events, ak Wally Balagosek, and London Band on the 6th of April. London Money, Fumayo Lighthouse.
London.
Yo, this one for a blessed Gambia. The more we work together, the more we celebrate. The more we come together, the more we celebrate. Come on, let's get together. There's a place I love to be. The Gambia, the Gambia.
Allô bébé, ça va? Ça va, je vais bien, merci. Et toi?
Ça va bien.
Et moi, j'ai toujours pas encore reçu l'argent pour la dépense des enfants. J'attends toujours.
Ah oui, c'est vrai. Wow. Actuellement, je suis au travail. Je suis tellement pris, mais bon, je sais pas, je pourrais pas me déplacer. Voilà, je pourrais pas me déplacer. Est-ce que je peux le faire plus tard?
Ok. Mais il y a une autre possibilité. Tu peux télécharger l'application de Cash Minute online.
Cash Minute? Non, jamais. C'est quoi Cash Minute?
C'est une application mobile. Tu télécharges ça dans Play Store. Oui. Ça te prend même pas 5 minutes. Je suis là, je t'attends. Fais-moi signe une fois que c'est prêt. D'accord.
Attends, je vais vérifier. Je vais le télécharger tout à l'heure. Ok.
Votre transfert d'argent, code CM, montant. Ah, que c'est rapide. Je vais devoir filer à la poste. Mais avant ça, allez, oui. Bébé, tu as été génial. Je viens de recevoir le code. Dans même pas 10 minutes, j'ai reçu. Et c'est tellement rapide, je t'assure. Je vais comme ça à la poste récupérer l'argent. Ok, merci beaucoup. Ok, au revoir.
Vous vivez en Europe et désirez envoyer de l'argent à vos proches en Afrique. Alors pensez à Cash Minute.
A date for your diary. Gambian Fashion and Exhibition Weekend. Designers are welcome to register interest. It's all about raising awareness of the fantastic work being done in our community.
Award night, fashion night and exhibition nights of top class only.
And if you can prove that you entered the UK when you are, say, 9 years old, and you've been here from 9 years to now, then you should be able to apply for that private life as well.
Now, someone who's an adult who's got a child here and is living in this country for the past 20 years illegally, how about the kids of those persons? Are they going to be entitled for citizenship or permanent resident or right to live in the UK?
What happens is, if a child was born in the UK, the court has now settled that point, because previously the Home Office used to say that if the child is born in the UK, the child is probably as illegal as the mother. And then the courts now say the child born in the UK is not illegal because when he was at the point of entry, there was no immigration officer there.
Yeah.
So he was born in the UK and therefore he hasn't entered the UK illegally. So that child remains in the UK. They have not said that.
But that child was born illegally in the UK.
That's what the Home Office would want to say previously, but now the court said that that is not the case. The child is not here illegally. So the child cannot be removed because the child is not here illegally. You know what I mean? So, but the child cannot also be able to obtain legal status.
Why? Why is that?
Because of the mother. You know, the child takes the nationality of the mother. That is the nationality law of this country.
So the child takes the nationality of the mother.
Of the parents.
At what point will the child be entitled for either nationality or a permanent resident?
The child will be entitled to registration, to be registered as a British citizen when the child turns 10 years old.
So between that period of time, that child cannot travel or cannot leave the country.
This is the unfortunate situation. If the child leaves the country, then the child is unable to come back because he's going to... The moment the child leaves the country, and then wants to come back in, then that entry would require
a visa or a national. All right.
That would require a visa, but that would require immigration control.
Even though that the child was born in the UK before leaving the UK.
Even though the child was born in the UK. So normally there's a 7 years threshold as well. If the child reaches 7 years, then the parents can apply, or the child can apply for leave to remain. But there is now they brought in a new caveat to that. You have to say that there are. It will be unreasonable. You have to prove that it would be unreasonable for that child to go back with the parents to their country of origin. Right. So when they look at that unreasonableness, they look at the schooling and the lifestyle there, and then they will come back and say, oh, there's a free education in the Gambia. Say, for example, if it is in the Gambia, they will say there's free education for the child, there will be free medical care for the child, or even if the medical care is going to cost money, it's not going to cost that much money which the parents are not going to be able to afford. It's where you have both parents going with the child. But, you know, that's why immigration is a very interesting area. Because if, say, for example, the mother has no paper,
meaning no resident to live in the UK,
but the mother has a child here with a man who doesn't have paper, but that man who has a child with another person who has paper, then you see, all of that makes it even more complicated. And in those scenarios, all of them would end up having paper because they will say there is an insurmountable obstacle to relocating the family to the country of origin because of the fact that there is another child there that has status, and that child cannot be able to go with the family as a whole.
Right.
You know, so where the family can be sent back as a whole, that's where they will say it is reasonable for the family to go back.
Thank you very much. Going back to EU laws, if a person is married to a European national, mainly either France, German, or whatever nationality from the EU, right? If they happen to go through a divorce before the spouse has been guaranteed or been offered a permanent resident, how can that person help themselves to obtain nationality to remain in the UK without the help of the spouse?
Yeah. So if you look at the EEA regulations currently, they have what we call retained right of residence. That comes under Regulation 10 of the EEA regulations 2016. So what that does is it provides for a scenario where the EEA sponsor either died or the relationship ended as a result of divorce or as a result of domestic violence or all other things. So, but what it requires is that at the date of the divorce, the EEA sponsor needs to be working in the UK.
Meaning exercising their treaty rights.
So on the date of the divorce. Thereafter, after the date of divorce, the person who, the non-EEA person, needs to prove that, they also need to prove that the marriage lasted for 3 years though. So the marriage needs to last for 3 years. You have to be married with the person for...
But the European law is not saying whether you're supposed to marry. It could be a civil partnership.
It could be a civil partnership. The problem with the civil partnership is that when there is no divorce, the cutoff point is the problem now, because they're not really much assisted by Regulation 10.
You see, the problem, Mr. Darrow, what I'm thinking in my head here is the British government or the UK has their own immigration law compared to the EU laws. Because if someone is married to an EU national and he happens to break up through the married life, despite the fact that even they were civil partners, the UK law is saying that you shouldn't be here anymore. You should leave as the person is leaving, or if there is no marriage anymore, you should leave as well.
No, normally that shouldn't be the case. The the reason why the UK immigration or the UK law would say that is because if they are not aware of your circumstances. So say for example they're not aware that the marriage lasted for 3 years. So you did mention civil partnership. I forgot. Civil partnership is the gay relationship. So those ones, they will be divorced obviously if the marriage ended. It's the unmarried partners ones which can be tricky. But the UK law cannot ask you to go because your sponsor had left. Because the sponsorship system is that the sponsor is the one that you're depending on. If the marriage hasn't ended, but the sponsor left, then you have a problem because your sponsor is gone. So who are you depending on?
That's a very good point. We'll take a short break and we'll still come back to you, Mr. Dava. Thank you very much to the viewers of Interface Gambia with your presenter Lamin Jami on my brand new show called The Jollof Show. This is where everything is going to happen. You, the viewers, will be benefiting on every fortnight with different topics, with different people.
And Elite Events présente Wally Balago Sek in London. Hey, London Dada du watch it. Hey, who not watch London? You know le golden boy, le playboy de la musique sénégalaise, le golden boy of Senegalese music. Wally Balago Sek in London, April 6, Lighthouse in London. Attention, pay attention a lot to what I'm saying. This is Wally Balago Sek in London, April 6, Lighthouse in London. Could you compare it? You know Gri Koita, Sherry Aja, Ibrahima Jao, Boubassila Nimisera, Sherry Ida, Ibrahima Koma, Sherry Nabia Drame, Kamondoi, Sherry Nasicha, Gui Marendi, Yune Ida Sose, Sherry Alajimbuba, Faith Cole, Ante G, Sherry Prince, Sali Touré, Sherry Jamil Traore, Aji Dramenjai, Aji Sherry El Traore, Zainab, Sherry Best Traore, Kanku Sisse Khobana, Fatou Sisse, Sherry Serigne, Ndeyjam, Sherry Tafasila, Wuri Jallo. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, Wally Balago Sek will be our guest in London, April 6. Dugubanak Naranech ak Wally Balago Sek, standing 48, sitting 55, another sitting place 16, VIP table, per person 100. London, Wally Balago Sek will be our guest. I know, and I'm sure that you're waiting for.
Yes, I am people. I'm coming to London on the 6th of April. Rich Energy, Elite Events, ak Wally Balago Sek, and London Band on the 6th of April. London Manager, Fumenyo Lighthouse. London!
A date for your diary. Gambian Fashion and Exhibition Weekend. Designers are welcome to register interest. It's all about raising awareness of the fantastic work being done in our community.
Award night, fashion night and exhibition nights of top class only.
Yo, this one for a blessed Gambia. The more we work together, the more we celebrate. The more we come together, the more we celebrate. Come on, let's get together. There's a place I love to be. The Gambia, the Gambia.
Hello, welcome back to Interface Gambia with your presenter Lamin Jam with my brand new show called The Jollof Show. Today I've got a very special guest. We've been talking about immigration. He's one of the leading immigration lawyers in the UK, Gambian immigration law in the UK, if not the best. Mr. Dabo, we've been talking about immigration. We talked about Brexit, we talked about EU laws. Mr. Dabo, how does domestic violence affect someone's immigration status in the UK?
Yes, so domestic violence can indeed enable someone to be able to remain in the UK, provided that there is evidence and then one is able to convince or satisfy the requirements of the immigration rules that the person indeed suffered domestic violence, and that domestic violence also resulted in the breakdown of the person's marriage. So these are some of the criteria. So one of the things that people, in terms of evidence that one needs to provide in order to satisfy the immigration rules or to convince the immigration caseworkers that the person indeed suffered domestic violence, is that they want to see that the police were involved, that in one or two of the incidents that happened, that you, the victim, had called the police and the police had taken steps against the perpetrator or the person who had been, or the assailant. That is one of them. The other one is that you had also reported this domestic violence that you've been suffering or you've been going through with your GP, or that you seek help from women in refuge and other sort of credible organizations or independent organizations that help women who suffer domestic violence. So you must be able to provide those sort of evidence. It would otherwise it would be very difficult for one to just turn up and say, well, I have suffered this amount of abuse from my previous husband, but you've never reported it to the police. And this, unfortunately, it's a scenario that happens to a lot of people. A lot of women from our part due to cultural reasons, find it very difficult to report their husbands.
But why do you think they're finding it difficult to report their husbands?
Because it's against their culture. Culturally, some will say religion also has a role in it
to play.
Yeah, because women are, people will say, when you're going into marriage, one of the admonitions you get from our parents, especially from our background, is that you have to, they will say, you have to persevere, be patient. So that is something which runs through them all throughout the marriage, and they will tell you marriage is pain. But here it's a different psychology here. Here they don't accept abuse. Whatever physical or mental suffering that one puts or subjected their spouses through is not accepted under the laws here. It's seen as an abuse. And some women also, because of lack of awareness, they would think that because this is the person who brought me into this country, my whole life depends on this person. And sometimes the husband will tell them, or the wife will tell them, that it's either you obey whatever I put you through, or otherwise you go back to where you come from. So they will not know that they have any rights or that there are any provisions under the laws which can protect them. So for those kind of people, even calling the police for them is a big threat.
That's right.
Because they will see that if I call the police, the next day after the police leaves here, my husband is just going to revoke my immigration status. It's going to basically destroy my immigration.
Knowing that the immigration status doesn't even, the husband has no rights to revoke your immigration status.
Yeah, but because this is the man that brought me into this country, so we're talking about people who are not very educated.
That's right.
Who don't even know much of their rights, even in the countries that they come from. They literally, and then the husbands basically, or the wives, because whenever people talk about domestic violence, we tend to see
that's right. We shouldn't be also forgetting that domestic violence covers effort. It could be a man that's facing it, or a woman.
In fact, women are worse. Women can be worse. In fact, when a man is going through domestic violence from a woman, that tends to be even worse, you know. And a lot of our brothers who are married, like the Bumsteds, when they are here, they also go through a hell of a time from their women. They abuse them a lot.
We've seen it so many times on the papers in the UK. We've seen that happening so many times in the papers in the UK.
Exactly. So the problem is about people not knowing that they actually have a right, and that they can have leave, or they can have settlement or status in the UK without the support of the husband, if the husband basically subjected them to domestic violence. that is something which I think is a very important message to send out there. It's for our people to know, for both women and basically we don't want people to, but you know,
to use that, because that should be very clear as well.
And that is why that is why the immigration said you have to provide evidence. The police has to be involved. The reason why they want the police to be involved, because you don't want someone who just literally is in a marriage that which he's not happy and wants to find a way out of the marriage, but at the same time wants to be able to retain their
right to stay in the UK.
Yeah, they can come up with whatever excuses or stories, fabrication, and say, this is what my husband has put me through, and even call the police on false allegations. But you know, when the police comes, when they attend to the scene, they will be able to tell what the person suffered from, or what they've been subjected to, whether it is self-inflicted or it is inflicted by the other person. So these are some things that the immigration want to look at. And if you go to Women in Refuge or your GP, they'll be able to see all of these things, because, you know, it has to be fairer. We don't want, the system should not be open to abuse, so that other people will not abuse it by just trying to take advantage of innocent people and implicate them, or sort of through whatever allegations they find convenience, just for them to be able to stay here. So the balance has to be there. But if someone is actually going through or suffering of DV, then they should know that they have a right.
And it's also clearly a very big crime against the law of this country to make false statements about domestic violence just to retain your citizenship or your right to stay in the UK.
And that runs throughout, because no matter what papers you end up having, even if you become a British citizen, if it can later be proven that you have actually obtained that status through deception or false misrepresentation and other things, even if you are a British citizen at that point. So your status could be revoked? Yes.
That's very good.
Revoked, yes.
That's very good.
So people should not take advantage of that.
That's very clear. At what point and how many phones now would you be required to have if someone was to marry their wife or spouse back home in the Gambia or any other country, Senegal or anywhere, to bring them? What is the earning required by the UK immigration system?
The amount is 18,600 gross. So that is the gross income. So sometimes people think that that is the net you are required, the net amount, but it's the gross income you're required. So if you're earning, say, 1,000, let's say 1,500 before tax, or 1,600 before tax, if you multiply that by 12, you are likely to be well over the 18,000.
The 18,000 earning,
yeah. So that is what the requirement is. But of recent, the law has changed as a result of a court case which went all the way to the Supreme Court, and they said that third-party support is also acceptable.
Accepted. Okay.
So if you're not earning 18,600, if there is a shortfall, so say for example you're earning 14,000 or you're earning 16,000, and there's 2,800 or 600 left, you multiply that 2,600 by 12. That might be an amount of, say, an additional income of £300 or £400. You can then have a family member or a friend or someone who can be able to prove that they can indeed have that kind of the amount at their disposal. They can write a letter to say that they can make an undertaking to say that we will support this person if their family member joins them in the UK, until the family member is able to secure a job. Because the family income will change. Absolutely. As soon as your spouse joins you and also obtains employment, and because high income in addition to yours will obviously go beyond the 18,600. So it's 18,600, and if there's an additional applicant dependent, like a child, then it goes, you have to get, I think it's 3,600 on top of that for the first child, and then the second one is 2,400.
Which you have to pay yourself.
Which you have to prove. So you have to. So if you're applying for your wife and one child, you need to have at least
And not also forgetting the NHS fee as well that you have to pay, which is £500.
Yes, of course. That the NHS fee is £500 for them. But you know, when they're paying it overseas, because they use this wall pay,
yeah,
when you're paying it, they charge you in dollars. So they use their own exchange rate, which tend to be, so some people will tend to allocate or budget the 500 for the NHS surcharges, and when it comes to payment, they would find that the amount is short, because the way the exchange rate goes, it might mean that you are required to pay more, because that wall pay is contracted by the Home Office, and they also have their charges on top.
On top of that.
So you end up paying about 600 or 700 for just NHS surcharges, which the law said is supposed to be 500. And the immigration fee is also separate from that. So there is an immigration fee. This 18,600 is a maintenance requirement.
Right.
So the maintenance requirement is to prove to the immigration officer that if my dependent joins me in the UK, we will have enough money to maintain ourselves without requiring additional recourse to public funds. So I wouldn't need to go and apply for benefit to support us. I have enough money, and that funds is that I am working and earning more than 18,600.
Now, how about when, after paying all this money to the immigration to apply for a family member to come from back home, and they end up being refused a visa, as the person has the right again to claim his money back from the immigration, which we have seen in so many cases?
You don't get your money, you don't get the application fee. So the application fee for entry clearance as a spouse, that in itself you would be paying around 1,600 pounds, about 1,600 to 1,800 pounds. So that 1,600, 1,800 pounds plus the NHS fee, which is 500 to 2,000 pound plus. So what happens is, if the application is refused, you get your NHS surcharges money back. That will be refunded.
Which is only £500.
Which is only £500. But the application fee, you don't get that back. That one, they hold on to that. That is, they will say, we use that money to process your application. So the caseworker that has to look at your papers and make a decision needed to be paid, and we have to pay him or her. But this study has shown that though they're charging people almost 2,000 for an application, the caseworkers' fees or the amount they need to pay the caseworkers for those cases only cost them about 300 to not more than 500 for nothing. Cost them more than 500 for each applicant, because the caseworkers don't need to spend 2 days on that. And if you look at their hourly rates, they don't get that much. They don't get that much paid per hour.
A question that most of the viewers of Interface Gambia would like to ask you, you yourself being an immigration lawyer, how far do you charge your clients, and how much do you charge them per case?
And that would depend on the complexity of the case. So when the case comes, we have what we call initial consultation. We charge £100 for that. That's the standard £100 for consultation.
Is that £100 an hour or standard £100?
No, consultation, sometimes you can tell someone, we will charge you 1 hour for consultation, and then they come before they even finish their story, it's gone over 1 hour. So you can never limit the time. Some people will be strict and say we want 1 hour, but consultation sometimes can go up to 3 hours or even 4 hours, because you have to take note of what the person is saying. So their history can be very, very complicated. And you know, we deal with all sort of people. You know, you can meet a client who suffered domestic violence, as we said. You can meet a client who is in a very vulnerable position. So you have to know how you deal with it. So we charge, the set fee would be for, like, if it is an indefinite leave, they will charge about 1,000. We will charge about 1,500 for indefinite leave. For leave to remain, it will be about 1,250. And then if it is indefinite settlement to join, would be about £1,000. If it is students, will be between 500 going upward. If it is visitors, it's 500. Because the lawyers charge for the work. They said the lawyer's time and his advice are his stock in trade. That's what he sells. That's what he lives on. And you have to understand that the lawyers have to pay a lot of things as well. In this country, we have to have a practicing license, which is annually. We have to pay for that. We have to pay an indemnity insurance that covers for whatever risky advice we're given to cover us in case people are not happy or they act upon our
Which is one of the reasons I'm going to ask you this question. At any given point, do you realize as an immigration solicitor that this person, the case that he wants me to work, he or she wants me to work on, is purely based on failed?
Oh, of course, you come across that. The solicitors rule, because we have our own conduct rules, and the solicitors' codes of conduct will say, because we have to tell the client, one of the things that you have to do as a lawyer, you have to tell the client there is no merit in this case. You see what I mean? And then as a result of that, there is literally absolutely nothing we can do. It's very rare for a lawyer to tell the client there is nothing we can do. Like I said, there is always...
Because you're always thinking about the money, so you wouldn't share that.
It's not only about the money, but it's sometimes, you know, the clients are very desperate. It's not just the money. It's like the clients would want you to do something magical, and it's very difficult.
Yeah, but at one point, you will know that clearly this case that this person is giving me is a no-win case.
But tell the client you need to pack your things and go back to Gambia.
It's not a problem. Just be very honest with them. I'm going to bring a scenario to your attention. Also, a family member of an EA national. The wife was the family member of the EA national. Due to some reasons, she could not work. Right? So when the 5 years of ended of his visa, the man was supposed to apply for his resident permit. At one point, he was refused. Immigration, knowing the fact that she was here living, all right, under the EA laws, but because she was not healthy enough to work, the husband, despite the fact they've got 2 kids, he was refused. And he was asked to go back to his country to appeal an out-of-country appeal.
Yeah, that used to be what we call certification cases, where they will say you cannot appeal in country, but you have to go on. But those ones now are not. They are. I think there's a case law that ruled against them now, so they cannot ask people to go out of the country to appeal. So now, when they refuse you, they have to give you an in-country right of appeal, unless this is a situation where the case had been before a judge before, and the judge had dismissed the case, and there are no new evidence to move the case from the one that has already been decided by a judge. So, and that judge's determination is not disturbed. In such kind of situation, it's very difficult for one to argue that you want to go back to court again to litigate everything that had been determined previously. You see, so that's the whole that's the point about that. But with regards to the earlier one, the merit issue, you know, you always have to advise the clients about the merit. You know, we will say to clients, the lawyer can never say this is a case that you're going to win 100%, because it's not.
Even though that you know that there's a genuine merit in this case.
Even though you know it's genuine, but because the lawyer is not the one who is going to decide that case, it's going to be decided by someone else. You can never give the 100% assurance to that person that this will be granted. You can put all of the documents together. You can tell the client we need this and that and that, and the client will provide you that evidence. And then from your own perspective and your own legal experience, you will say that we have enough merit in this case to win, or for the application to be successful. And then you take it to a caseworker who has no clue at what he is doing, and they give you a terrible decision, which you get really, really frustrated, and then advise the client we have to appeal against this. But that is not because the client's case lacks merit. It's because the other party, the caseworker who needs to deal with that case, did not have the required knowledge and experience to understand the evidence that was before the person. And that can be the problem.
You've mentioned caseworkers numerous times today. Are these qualified lawyers or not? Because for the benefit of the viewers of Interface Gambia and the Jollof Show, caseworkers who deal with the cases of people on behalf of the Home Office, right? Are they qualified themselves as lawyers?
They are in-house trained. They're not lawyers. They're in-house trained caseworkers. So literally, they train on what to look for in an application. So when you look at it, that's one of the things you say, because the Home Office will always have a guidance. They have what they call casework instructions. So these are instructions they give to their caseworkers to say, if you receive an application from an EEA person, first thing you need to establish, or say you have received an application from an EEA family dependent, the first thing you need to establish is that the person has a valid, genuine ID card. So the person is who he claims to be. So they will look at your passport first and want to establish that the passport is genuine. If the passport is genuine, they tick that one. That is genuine. They move on to the next one. Is there a family? Is the person qualified to be a family member? Now, qualified to be a family member, you have to be either married to the person, or you are the child of the person, or you are the elderly parent of the person. So they look at either the marriage certificate or the birth certificate, and then they have to satisfy themselves that this is a genuine birth certificate. So sometimes they might have sample birth certificates that they can cross-check to see whether that which is provided by this applicant matches with the sample that they have, or it doesn't. Yeah, and then this is what they go by. So sometimes the problem is this. Like, for example, the Gambian passport. Yeah. The Gambian passport, we used to have a red passport. Then after that we had a blue passport, and then after that we have a green passport. The green one. The diplomats from Gambia have red passport. So if you send a Gambian passport, a Gambian diplomatic passport with a red colored one, to an immigration caseworker who is going by the samples that they have, they look at the sample as a green passport, and then this person has a red passport, they'll just send it back to you and say, we don't accept this passport, we don't think it's valid because it is red in color, and the Gambian passports are supposed to be green. Right. You know, we have a lot of this kind of scenarios where they will even tell you, you've provided us this birth certificate from the Gambia, it is not accepted, or this marriage certificate is not accepted. And unfortunately for us, because we tend to have a lot of mistakes on our documents from the Gambia. I mean, the Kadi marriage certificate is one of those. In one of the columns there, instead of bridegroom, we have bridegroom, and that is still there. And
so that's the Kadi marriage certificate from the Gambia.
From the Gambia, we still have, at some point, instead of bridegroom for the man, yeah, they have bridegroom. So which is so interesting. And then I had actually been in cases where the immigration officers were trying to say that this marriage certificate is not genuine, because a genuine marriage certificate from the Gambian authorities would not make such trivial mistakes.
So, but is that Kadi marriage certificate allowed and accepted within the immigration system? It
is.
It is allowed and accepted.
Yeah, it is allowed.
Right. Another question I want to ask you, still on the marriage certificates you just talked about now, is why is it that the Church of England, the marriage certificate from the Church of England is accepted under immigration laws here, but other faiths, marriage certificates are not allowed in the UK?
It's just all part of this immigration, hostile immigration environment. So they believe that Church of England churches are very difficult to bribe or to connive with and do all kind of dubious marriages. And the same, likewise, the registry. This is the belief. So for immigration purposes, they are saying that they are not accepting any other marriage certificate other than the marriage certificate issued by the Church of England, because the Church of England is seen as a national institute, a national institution, and the registry is also seen as a national institution. The other mosques and everything, they are not seen as national institutions. They are seen as faith, sort of like organizations. Some of them independent of any other one. Some they have subsidiaries around the country. So they're saying that national institutions would be very thorough with their checks in conducting such marriages, whereas the other one, only God knows what happened.
So this is why the Church of England is allowed.
Why Church of England and the marriage general registry marriage certificates are accepted here. But for only immigration purposes, all the other purposes, they are indeed seen as...
But can our embassies also, can they register within the immigration system so marriage are allowed to take place, you know? Because the reason I'm asking you this is post-marriage, they were allowed. custody marriages. They were allowed, and I know few embassies that have took place, that those marriages are taking place in those embassies before.
You see, the UK law, the UK law's recognition of marriages is very simple on the UK law. If it is a marriage that happens in the UK, it will be recognized. So depending on what the marriage certificate is being used for. Yeah. So if it is used for proving that I'm a spouse of someone, not for immigration purposes, then obviously those marriage certificate would count. So say, for example, if it is a divorce proceeding in the family courts, you will not say that the family courts will not accept a marriage certificate or nikah certificate that you got from a mosque or somewhere else, you know. But for immigration purposes, immigration will not accept that. When it comes to overseas marriage certificates, the UK law is very simple. It recognizes that marriage certificate so long as that marriage is recognized in the country that it took place.
Right.
So a Qadi marriage certificate, a customary marriage certificate, a Christian marriage certificate, any other marriage certificate, so long as you can provide a provision of the law of your country to say that this is what the law said about this marriage, or it is accepted, or there is an institution. So what people do is, if it is whatever marriage certificate it is, whatever type of marriage it was, if they come here, they take it to their embassies or their high commissions, and the high commission or the embassy will authenticate it to prove that that marriage is genuine in their country. When that country accepts that marriage is lawful in their country, the UK law said it has to be accepted.
So then the certificate could be used within the immigration system
this
too.
This is why we call proxy marriages. So this is the marriage where both Gambians are here and the marriage is done in the Gambia. The UK will say, well, both of them are here, but the question is no longer for the UK law to decide. It is for the Gambian law to decide.
So how long a case like that, how long will it take before the person could be granted a status?
Exactly the same length as anyone who got a marriage certificate here.
But why does it also take more than 6 months for the case to be taking place?
Sometimes, you see, the problem is that we've noted this because, you see, our marriage certificate, if you look at our marriage certificate, it will say Mohammedan laws of 1948. 1948 happens when we were under the colonial rule, when we were under British rule. So Britain still has those laws because those were laws passed by the House of Parliament. The Gambian marriage certificates are supposed to get their provenance, they're supposed to get their authority from the Constitution. But what happens is, because of the laziness in our system, and our authorities cannot be bothered about, because obviously Gambia, the only people who need marriage certificate are those that are traveling abroad.
That's right.
Those in the Gambia don't need marriage certificate to prove that they're married. The whole society will know, you know.
Someone is married.
Yeah, so the marriage certificates that we have, as the printers, the government printers still use the same template that they had since the colonial days. And the marriage certificate, instead of saying Constitution of the Gambia, it still said the Mohammedan law. The Mohammedan laws had made stipulations. For example, a Qadi marriage that happened in Banjul, it says the marriage needs to be registered within a month. The problem we have is we have people registering a marriage today, but they will say the marriage happened in 1993. So when you send that to the Home Office, they will just refuse it because they have those laws with them there. Right. So that was a law passed by Britain, and we are relying on that to prove our marriage. And then, but the marriage certificate is saying the marriage was registered at the Qadi court on the 22nd of September 2018. And then when did the marriage take place? The marriage took place on the 19th of January 1991. And then they're saying your marriage happened 20 years ago or 30 years ago, and it's only been registered now. And the law, the Mohammedan law, says that this has to be registered within a month. I mean, I had many of these cases. I didn't even know these things before, and I was trying to talk to lawyers. At one time I was even talking to the marriage registrar in the Gambia about it. Look, why is it that you people are registering marriages that are 2 decades old
or 3 decades away?
And they're like, well, it's not a problem here. It's normal. It's okay. But here, try to explain that to a lawyer that is representing the Home Office. he is trying to tell the judge that this marriage cannot be accepted because it did not go, it was not in accordance with the laws of the Gambia, and therefore the UK law cannot recognize it, because the UK law can only recognize a marriage that follows the rights, the marriage rights of a particular law, and this one has failed that. This is where the problem, Cardi marriages have been having problems, you know. If it happens in Carniving on the other side, as long as it is not done in Banjul, if it happens outside of Banjul, that marriage certificate, you can register it even 20 years old is fine. But so long as it happens in Banjul. And then the other thing it requires is that if the parties are, the Cardi is registering it in Banjul, the parties to the marriage must live in Banjul, or one of them must at least live in Banjul. Okay. But you have people from the provinces, everybody's Cardi certificate from Banjul.
That's right. But thank you very much to Mr. Dabo. It was really a pleasure to have you on this show today. Thanks to the viewers of Interface Gambia. Like I say, I'm your presenter, Mr. Jame, with my brand new show here called The Jollof Show. Expect more to come for you, the viewers of Interface Gambia. I'll have different guests here that will be talking about also how to improve and child education in the Gambia and women education, how we going to empower women in the Gambia. Thank you very much, Mr. Dabo. It was a pleasure to have you on our show today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
This one for a blessed Gambia. The more we work together, the more we celebrate. The more we come together, the more we celebrate. Come on, let's get together. There's a place I love to be. The Gambia, the Gambia.
A date for your diary, Gambian Fashion and Exhibition Weekend. Designers are welcome to register interest. It's all about raising awareness of the fantastic work being done in our community.
Award night, fashion night and exhibition nights of top class only.
Energy and Elite Events présente Wally Balagosek in London. Hey, London dadaay du wàcc de. Hey, ku nar a wàcce London, ñu ne le golden boy, le playboy de la musique sénégalaise, le golden boy of Senegalese music. Wally Balagosek in London, April 6, Lighthouse in London. Attention, pay attention a lot to what I'm saying. This is Wally Balagosek in London, April 6, Lighthouse in London. Ku ñu ko parrainé, ñu ne Gris Koita, Chéri Adja, Ibrahima Diawo, Boubassila Nimisera, Chéri Ida, Ibrahima Koma, Chéri Nabia Dramé, Kamondoy, Chéri Nasi Cham, Guy Marembi, ñu ne Ida Sosé, Chéri Aladji Mboup, Fef Cole, Anta G, Chéri Prince, Sali Touré, Chéri Jamil Traoré, Aji Dramé Ndiaye, Aji Chéri Ay Traoré, Zeynab, Chéri Bess Traoré, Kankou Cissé Khobanna, Fatou Cissé, Chéri Serigne, Ndey Cham, Chéri Tafa Silla, Wuri Diallo. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, Wally Balagosek will be our guest in London, April 6. Duguba nak nara neex ak Wally Balagosek, standing 48, sitting 55, another sitting place 16, VIP table, per person 100. London, Wally Balagosek will be our guest. I know, and I'm sure that you're waiting for.
Yes, I am a people. I'm coming to London on the 6th of April. Rich Energy, Elite Events, ak Wally Balagosek, and Ramdan Band on the 6th of April. London Manino, Fumenyo Lighthouse.
London!